At Kira's words, everyone turned to her. Isla hesitated.
So, where is he? Where is Dr. South?
Jake also looked at Kira eagerly. Agitated, Mrs. Olsen began to cough violently.
Where is...
Seeing this, Kira hastily handed her a cup of tea. Mrs. Olsen took the cup of tea with her shaky hands. The next moment, the teacup slipped from her hand. Mrs. Olsen fainted on the dining table. Kira cried out, "Ma'am!" She instinctively reached out to help Mrs. Olsen, but was pushed away by Isla.
Back off! What did you do to my mom? Mom? Wake up! Jake, call an ambulance!
Kira tried to get into the ambulance but was stopped by Jake.
An illegitimate daughter should stay away from Mrs. Olsen. If anything happens to her, you're the one to blame.
He pushed her away. Kira didn't want to waste time arguing with him. She hailed a taxi and followed them. Meanwhile, Louis had just finished dinner with his grandmother and was busy working outside the suite. Having read over his documents a fifth time, he rubbed his eyes and turned his gaze toward the window. Suddenly, he saw a familiar figure. A group of people were hastily pushing a stretcher toward the inpatient department. Kira followed them from afar, looking like an abandoned little fox. Louis raised his eyebrows and suddenly stood up, heading outside. Once he reached the ground floor, he saw Isla and Jake arranging the hospitalization procedures. The doctor shook his head.
Sorry, all the wards are currently full. You can stay in the corridor until a bed is available. I promise we'll arrange it as soon as possible.
Jake tapped his foot.
Are there no VIP wards available? Price is not an issue.
The doctor huffed.
No.
Isla cried pitifully.
Jake, what do we do now? My mother can't lie out in the hallway with all the common people.
Jake placed a caring hand on her shoulder.
Don't panic, honey. I'll figure something out.
Jake pulled out his phone and started making calls. Louis studied Isla's expression closely. He noticed that while Isla looked anxious, she didn't seem particularly worried about Mrs. Olsen. His gaze shifted to Kira. Unlike Isla, the girl looked calm and kept her eyes locked on Mrs. Olsen on the stretcher, although she didn't say a word. It was clear from her expression that she was worried. Still looking at Kira, Louis cleared his throat next to Tom.
Help Miss Olsen get a bed.
Tom looked up from his phone, surprised.
Yes, boss.
Kira continued waiting by Mrs. Olsen's stretcher. She had watched Jake on the phone and saw him walking away with a concerned face. She knew that whatever sway or money he had clearly hadn't been enough. Fortunately, Mrs. Olsen wasn't in a life-threatening situation. She had fainted due to a profound lack of sleep, caused by persistent coughing. Kira looked at Mrs. Olsen, who stirred slightly from the noise in the busy hospital hallway. She needed rest. Kira racked her brain for a way to get Mrs. Olsen a private room. She considered asking if she could share one with another patient, but she knew Isla and Taylor would be too proud to agree to that kind of solution. To her surprise, the registration counter at the inpatient department received a call. They gestured for Isla and Jake to come to the counter.
A VIP ward has just become vacant.
Isla turned to her fiancé and said happily,
Jake, you are amazing.
Jake looked confused. He didn't recall any of his connections promising they could find a room. Could they have actually managed to help? He didn't give it a second thought and took credit for the accomplishment. Mrs. Olsen's gurney was pushed into an elevator with a group trailing close behind. Kira followed at a distance and opted to take the stairs. She was dismayed that Mrs. Olsen looked even more gaunt than she did 10 years ago. When she reached the correct floor, Kira watched as Mrs. Olsen was pushed into a large, plush ward. Kira attempted to follow her, but was stopped by Isla.
Kira, my mother needs to rest. Please, don't disturb her.
Isla shut the door in her face. Kira stood in place, stunned. Although she was worried about Mrs. Olsen's health, she understood that she didn't have the right or status to go inside. Kira decided to wait on a visitor's bench outside the room. Not long after, she heard hasty footsteps. A worried Taylor hurried into the ward, panting for breath. After confirming that Mrs. Olsen wasn't in critical condition, he took Isla outside to talk in the corridor. He asked,
"What happened? What made her faint? She was perfectly fine this morning."
Isla looked over at Kira, who was waiting patiently on the bench.
Kira insisted on getting to know Dr. South. She argued with Jake, which upset Mom, and then things took a turn. You know what kind of temper she has.
Taylor's blood boiled. He whipped his head around, then strode up to Kira.
"Ungrateful creature!"
Then he swung his arm to slap Kira. Kira didn't dodge. All she could think of was the image of Mrs. Olsen's pale face after she fainted. She recalled what Isla once said.
My mom is unhappy because of you.
Maybe she really shouldn't have appeared in front of Mrs. Olsen. The anticipated pain never came. When she opened her eyes, she saw a tall figure standing in front of her, holding Taylor's wrist. Lewis towered over Taylor's small form, holding his wrist high. Suddenly, he let it drop to his side. Kira blinked, suppressing the tears in her eyes and the bitterness in her heart. She heard Taylor's flustered voice.
Mr. Horton, what are you doing?"
Lewis adjusted his tie.
"Apologies, Mr. Olsen. I wouldn't have intervened. But my grandma likes her, and if she sees any injury on Miss Olsen, she'll be extremely upset."
Taylor nodded.
"I'm sorry about that, Mr. Horton. It won't happen again."
They were about to say something when Mrs. Olsen coughed. She was awake. Taylor and Isla immediately went inside. Kira stood up, wanting to go in and check on Mrs. Olsen's condition. She hesitated at the door for a long time. She could hear Mrs. Olsen's weak voice.
"I'm fine. Don't worry, sweetheart. I haven't slept properly for such a long time. I fell asleep as soon as I fainted. It was actually quite comfortable."
Kira relaxed. The color returned to her face. Lewis averted his gaze. The girl had just looked as lost as a homeless little fox. He found himself sympathizing with her. He strolled up beside her and asked,
"Are you not going in?"
Kira answered, "Not yet." Kira couldn't put herself in a position to disturb Mrs. Olsen. Just as the two turned around, they saw old Mrs. Horton hobbling down the hallway, supported by the butler.
"I heard my granddaughter-in-law's mother has been hospitalized. I had to come check on her."
Kira held her arm.
Grandma, Mrs. Olsen isn't my mother.
The old lady suddenly took out her phone, found a photo, and gave it to Kira.
"Did I get it wrong? Granddaughter-in-law, this is a photo that you sent to me before, saying it was you and your mother. Isn't the person in the ward the one in the photo?"
Kira glanced at the photo and was immediately taken aback. In the photo was Mrs. Olsen and herself.
To listen to the full audio series, install the Pocket FM app now.